Football fans love a good story. The prodigy, the next Messi, the miracle season. And this year, that story had a name: Lamine Yamal. But somewhere between the highlight reels and the hashtags, the line between talent and greatness got completely blurred. When Dembele won the Ballon d'Or, people lost it. You think Yamal had been robbed of destiny itself. But let's be honest, was it really about football anymore? Or it was about what sells, what trends, and what fits the fairy tale story? Today I'm breaking down why the Yamal for Ballon d'Or movement never made sense, and why all the noise might have buried the player who actually should have ended in Barcelona, Raphinha. So let's break it down. Why so many people were desperate for Yamal to win, what that says about how football fandom has changed, and how the whole narrative completely overshadowed Raphinha's season. Lamine Yamal didn't just have a breakout season. He had a Hollywood narrative around it. 17 years old, a boy, a local boy from Barcelona's academy, fearless on the ball, and not just playing, but starring. 18 goals, 21 assists, a domestic treble. Every time he scored, the internet lost its mind. And Barcelona knew exactly what they had: not just a player, but a story. They built an entire media campaign around it: social media clips, highlight reels, interviews comparing him to Messi. The kid wasn't just performing, he was being marketed as the future of football. By the time award season rolled out, the conversation has shifted. It wasn't about who had been the best player in the world, it was about how symbolic it would be for a 17-year-old to win the Ballon d'Or. People started framing it as a changing of the guard. Messi and Ronaldo gone, Mbappe aging into veteran status without winning the Ballon d'Or, Haaland fading from the headlines, and here comes the crown jewel, Lamine Yamal, the prodigy meant to represent the new era of football talisman. The narrative is powerful. It taps into emotion, but not logic. Fans wanted a moment, not a fair verdict. And to be fair, Yamal's numbers for his age were incredible. But that's the key word: for his age. You can admire the potential while still admitting he wasn't the best footballer on the planet in 2025. Those two things can both be true, but for most people, it wasn't. Let's be fair to those who wanted him to win. There is a case, just not a very strong one. The argument goes like this: he was decisive in key moments, he transformed Barcelona's attack, he carried himself like a veteran, not a teenager, and symbolically, he represented the future of sports. Those are valid points, but they are also very emotional ones. Yes, Yamal had defining moments, solo goals, assists under pressure, flashes of genius that only rare players like Messi and Ronaldo had produced. But when you zoom out over 55 matches, the numbers don't stack up against the top tier of world football. 18 goals and 21 assists are great, but they are not Ballon d'Or winning numbers when someone else scored double that while leading their team to a treble. And even in his own team, Raphinha outproduced him statistically with 34 goals and 23 assists. Raphinha was more consistent, more direct, and more often decisive in big games, but he didn't have the aura. That's the word that keeps coming up with Yamal: aura. The idea that he plays like a generational superstar: calm, technical, magnetic, electric. And yes, he does. But the Ballon d'Or isn't meant to reward aura, is it? It's supposed to reward excellence across a full season, and Yamal hadn't demonstrated that. So the question becomes, do we want the Ballon d'Or to go to the best footballer or the best story? Because if we are picking based on vibes, then sure, definitely should have gone to Yamal. But based on what happened over 12 months, then the results were right for Dembele. Here's the part of the story that doesn't get talked about enough. The Yamal hype didn't just create unrealistic expectations, it stole oxygen from everyone else at Barcelona, especially Raphinha. Raphinha quietly put up one of the best statistical seasons in Europe, obviously. 34 goals, 23 assists across all competitions. That is elite. That's Ballon d'Or podium form for the competition that he was in. He was the one dragging Barcelona through tough away matches, the one scoring when others froze. But every week, the headlines were about Lamine Yamal, the next Messi. Raphinha was treated like a supporting actor in a movie he was starring in. Even during the Ballon d'Or campaign, Barcelona's PR machine leaned heavily into Yamal's youth and symbolism, the ultimate perfect story. The club's marketing department knew which story they wanted to sell. They also knew which story actually sells. The 17-year-old genius who conquered Europe. The narrative drowned out Raphinha's consistency, maturity, and leadership across the season. And it's a pattern we've seen before. When hype takes over, substance disappeared. If you only watched clips, you think Yamal carried Barcelona single-handedly. But if you watched full matches, you'd see Raphinha doing the heavy lifting, the pressing, the tracking, the clinical finishing, the leadership on the pitch. He was the grown-up in the room, and he didn't trend on TikTok. And in today's game, unfortunately, that matters. Awards are increasingly shaped by perception, not performance. The louder your story, the better your chances, even if the numbers say otherwise. If you're enjoying this kind of breakdown, the kind that cuts through the hype and looks at what's really happening, rate the podcast, share it with a friend. Let's build a football community that values substance over noise. It's definitely one that I'm enjoying doing, and it's one that I think you would enjoy as well. So the Yamal debate is bigger than one award. It shows how football culture has changed. In the age of social media, narratives now drive recognition more than performances do. It's not just about what happens on the pitch, it's about the story that's crafted around it and how that story feels among fans. And Yamal's story feels so good. It's cinematic. It makes people feel like they're watching history being born. But that emotion can't replace context. He didn't deserve to win the Ballon d'Or yet, not over players who had objectively better seasons. But that doesn't mean he's overrated. That just means timing matters. And unfortunately, his time has not come. If Yamal continues like this, he would win multiple Ballon d'Ors for sure in his career. Not just one, multiple. The real shame is how that rush to crown him early distorted the conversation, both around the award and around teammates like Raphinha who earned more respect than they got. The Ballon d'Or is supposed to celebrate the best footballer in the world, not the best headline, not the best story. Lamine Yamal is the future, no question. But 2025 wasn't his year. The numbers, the context, the impact, they all pointed to Dembele and Raphinha, who should have been going head to head. So when people say Yamal was robbed, I'd argue the opposite. Raphinha was. He was denied that opportunity to compete fair and square for the Ballon d'Or. If you enjoyed this episode, follow and rate the show, share it with that one friend who still thinks hypes equal greatness. And remember, in football, narrative sells, but the numbers tell the real story.